It's funny because like last night we were driving and talking about, you know, just in general, like some of the principles we've learned and like how, you know, we're talking about feelings versus discipline and how that like relating to like right now what we're doing, and then kind of started getting into like, okay, well, like our future, you know, kind of what we see ourselves doing. And I think something we've been talking about a lot is like a lot of people, we don't realize like nobody really has like a 5 or 10 year plan. I think once you get into business, that just like naturally feels right. And so like our families, for instance, they'll always ask like, oh, why don't you just buy a house? And it's like, that's a part of the plan for us, but that's like our 5-year plan. And people, I feel like think we're crazy, but like I think we have like a pretty, like you can't gauge a time exactly, but we have a pretty like solid like step by step, like this is what we're gonna do at this stage. And I think getting into what I was saying or what we're talking about with aviation, we have a spot where that like fits into our life, you know?
Yeah,
and
everyone always asks like, you know, why did you give up flying?
It's like, you just don't get it yet, but you will.
Yeah, it's like, just hang on, like.
You don't even know what's gonna happen, you know? It's gonna feel crazy, but that's why we need to keep it close to our heart, because like, I think these kind of videos and sharing what we're doing, you know, just naturally like telling people, like showing them like what, bringing them into our life just is a way to explain it, you know, in such a better way than like, that's a really loaded question. I feel like when people ask like, why'd you give up flying? It's like, but I didn't though, you know, you just don't know that yet.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, it's just crazy. Like we've been talking a lot about flying because we saw the jets last night, and then today it kind of worked out where you found that guy that did a similar thing to what we're talking about.
Yeah,
and
Jesse Itzler, I think his last name.
Yeah, and we've like everything we talk about just kind of interweaves perfectly into like just what other people have done, and like just it's perfect. Like I can explain here what I'm trying to say, and you know how we've always said like, yeah, flying and like the charter company and the flight school and stuff you want to build, it's maybe 10 years in the future. We never really fully understood why. We just knew we weren't ready yet, but I can see now it's because we need to become the people, or you need to become the person that business-wise and just the type of person that can handle that sort of like responsibility. And you already know like most of what you need to do, and it's just the business side skills and like kind of like brain you need to earn to be able to run a company that big. Because I think if you started it now, sure, maybe like by the time 10 years might take you longer to build something successful, but at the end of the day, like I think it'd be smart to have those cash cow businesses now and know how to run a successful business. So when you start something you're passionate about, like we were saying last night, you don't get that like, you don't get those like emotional like rose tinted glasses on, and like you, I feel like you just be able to see problems easier because you've done it before with businesses you didn't like feel that passion with.
Yeah, you know? And something that I'm manifesting too is like the right partner, because it's also like something that I want to start and grow and obviously be a part of long term forever. But the day-to-day operations like isn't something that I'd want to just be physically tied to again.
Yeah.
So like manifesting the right partner that maybe has like similar vision.
I agree. I think too with that business, you're probably going to have a couple of partners, because I think it's so important to have as many brains as possible, but like as many, it's like tight knit though, like not too many people contributing to an idea, because there's too many cooks in the kitchen, but just the right amount of people that can contribute. Like you're the main person that's bringing it all together, and maybe it's like somebody that gets equity in the business that could be like owner operator.
Yeah. So when I was listening to Jesse's story too, he had a partner.
And I think that's good. So like what I was saying though is like tying this all together, like having a 10-year plan and like why we're waiting, and just everything we've been talking about too, is the reason that I think it's so important to document like just everything in our lives, like the way we've been doing it for the last year, is for one, you know, it's just good for you because you can see how far you've grown. Two, it's good for the people who are watching because they get to see what it was like for somebody to grow from nothing to something to everything.
Conor McGregor.
We joke about that. And then you think about the people and the connections that you make.
Yeah, exactly. And something I always thought of too is like think about like long term, like everything. Think long term. Yeah, like when we're long gone, people can actually go back. I mean, I'm assuming YouTube will still be a thing.
Yeah.
Hopefully, but like our generations to come could go back and then see like who we were,
save them on a
how
drive
this all
too,
started. Yeah.
But like, do you want to know what's I just thought of too? Like, this is where our car conversations flow so well. Is I just thought of, you know how like Alex Mosier watching one of his videos or a podcast or something, and he was mentioning a lot of the time when someone's self-made, they'll build something great. Maybe the second generation will learn from them, you know. Or he was talking about like the what was it? Something within China, how like the families, wealthy families, build something, and the kids, you know, maybe knew how to run it, but then the third and the fourth generations, they didn't learn that skills. They didn't build the grit that it takes to like start those businesses. They literally just, you know, it's kind of like watered down by that point, you know, the skill set, and just they had no skills, you know. And so I think this is a way to kind of help solve those problems, because, you know, 3 generations from now, like that's the terms that I'm thinking, and that's why I have a 5-year plan, because I have a 200-year plan too, for like our families and the value we can offer.
Yeah, exactly.
And if they ever run into problems because it wasn't something they built, I don't want to be a family of generational wealth and like here you just get a business. I want to be a generational wealth, like a family of like founders. You know, I want our generations to start their own businesses, but also acquire the ones we have, and that's how you really build something crazy. You know, as far as like a family, the Osborne family owns, you know, this many endeavors, and so yeah. I think this is a way that we can help solve that problem though. Within a few generations, you build, and you're like, okay, great uncle, or you know, Grandpa Tanner, or whatever. This is what he did when he ran into this problem, yeah. You know, and they just feel that they feel the spirit again, because if they just inherit $100 million business and they don't, you know, have a clue what's going on, and that's why I really want to like ingrain in our, you know, our kids and their kids and so on, is to have the heart of a founder always, and not just like inheritance, you know. And
book called that.
Yeah, seriously, something about that. I think, and a way through doing that is documenting through social media and bringing your kids up with you, because homeschooling Paxton, you know, and having him be a part of everything we do, is just so great. Like, he's around everything. He's around the hard times, like when we're like solving problems, and he's also, just because that's a normal part of business, he's not like pushed off or like, you know, in school or whatever. And you know, not everyone can, you know, have the luxury of doing that, but I think we just dove all in and homeschooling him, and then, you know, then bringing him with on the day-to-day is,
yeah, if you're gonna do it, you might as well just go all in and not dabble in it.
Yeah, I've heard like so many different things, you know. People are like, you know, stay in your job and then bridge into business, and I think for a lot of people that's something you're talking about.
It should.
It's great, like that's something you should do. But for us,
get paid to learn.
Exactly. For us though, that wasn't our story. And never be ashamed of like your story, or if your story is different, because like, for instance, like I always felt like, well, why are they saying like you should work a job while you're building your business? And like, I think that's great for like a lot of people's journeys, but like our journey, it never made sense to do that. So I was like trying to, you know, I was like, well, did I make the wrong choice, you know, of like jumping the gun too soon? But I don't think for us that was like the case, you know, for instance, like our journey.
And I can't work a job. I've literally tried. I'm unemployable.
You're unemployable. It's not that I'm unemployable, it's just that I just know that like I am so dedicated, you know. For instance, like having Paxton in 16, I had him in the summer and then went right back to school 8 weeks later, and I would wake up in the morning, like my schedule would look like this. For instance, I'd wake up at 5, get myself ready, get him ready, drop him off at daycare by 6:30, head into school. From 7 to 8 I would do homework and get things done, and then from 8 to noon I would be in classes, and then during my lunch break I would eat and then go study, and then I'd be in school, and then I'd go work, and then I'd come home and hang out with you. And I didn't have too much homework because I did most of it, and my GPA, Tanner, went from like a 2.5 to a 4.5 by senior year, even though I had a kid. Like my freshman year of high school I didn't have a kid, sophomore year didn't have a kid, had him between sophomore year and junior year, and my GPA junior year was like a 3.8, and then senior year was like a 4.4 or something like that. So it's like having a kid never held me back, and if I could make a change just like this and like was so focused and dedicated, and then went on to graduate college, get a bachelor's degree in 2.5 years at like a private university, which is harder than like a public university usually, and just my degree being like a more medical degree, I just told myself after that, I was like, I can do anything. And so it was like, I'm the type of person too who doesn't like change too much, but I embrace change. For instance, like I had a plan, you know, to go to my master's and just get a full ride, you know.
Yeah.
Getting my master's degree, I had it paid for. I had a ticket, you know, front row ticket to get the degree and get it paid for. But I knew, like, I always knew like something was off and that my choice wasn't for me. It was for everybody else.
Yeah, you felt like everybody else like was making the choice for you almost.
Yeah, and so it just didn't feel right. And so like moving to Arizona, even though I went from building something to now having nothing, and then going and working at the Cheesecake Factory.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it was hard for me, but I never doubted anything. And then we went all in on e-commerce, and we were making like $3,000 every 2 weeks or something. And we've had a lot of like ups and downs, but it was because we've known how to pivot and be in the right vehicle. I think for the first year we made a lot of mistakes, more mistakes than we made, you know, movement in the right direction.
Yeah.
But that's how it usually is. I'd say usually 5 years.
There's no other way, in my opinion. You have to go and try things. Like I think all your 20s, not even just your 20s, because I think that holds like a mindset that people hold is like, well, I'm too old. It doesn't even matter what age is, literally just a number, in my opinion.
I agree.
As cliche as that sounds, but
each shit phase is different. Like ours has lasted. I'd say it lasted probably like a year and a half, and then the last year and a half has just been rebuilding everything, like rebuilding our foundation, which is our mindset, which is our relationships. And now it's like, okay, we're done being in the eat shit phase, which I think you go through like periods, you know, of every new business. But the only reason our business hasn't become something huge yet is because we've moved the bucket. We've gotten into a different boat, but we've done it for the right reasons. I'm so glad. I'd rather start at zero with what we're doing now than keep pushing what we were doing before, because it didn't align with who we were.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, you're talking more so like as far as like what we're doing with the furniture company.
Yeah, the furniture company, and then you know, you with flying, and then me with my degree. Like just how we started over from zero.
All of it.
Just all of it, like everything we've done. But I'm glad we did, because me and you know how to pivot.
It's just like a path. Like if you wanted to start on your path and went through everything, you wouldn't have been able to make this decision, because you didn't have the knowledge, the skills, or the evidence to make that sound like decision.
Exactly. I think
so you just have to start and stay the course, and then, you know, trust yourself, trust your intuition, and just listen to that inner voice rather than, you know, like what we were saying, like letting everybody else make the decision for you.
I agree. And I think me and you were very, very good at putting ourselves in a corner and figuring it out. And that's like, not a lot of people have that skill, but I know because of everything we went through, like we were equipped with that skill early on.
And it's kind of,
you know,
it's kind of fun, because once you come out of it and conquer it, like that's something that nobody can take away from you. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm like, trust me, like every step of the way I've been scared shitless about, like, not about the decision I made, but just about like, okay, like, you know, it's something new. And I think because you're not in your comfort zone anymore, you're gonna be scared. It's just it's like the human in you, you know, almost like the ego, the person that was ingrained in this society. It's just the comfort, or like the, what is it called, the mammalian part of your brain, like routed for survival or whatever.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, is like we're literally, our brains are equipped not to necessarily like thrive and all of this, or it's literally equipped to keep you like an animal, like survival.
That's the whole part of entrepreneurship that we were talking about a little bit last night, like late last night before bed. We were talking about how entrepreneurship isn't supposed to be like a finite game. You're not supposed to like just one day wake up and like, here, I'm worth this, I'm happy now, I won the game, I'm all good now. Like, it's an infinite game. Ooh, sorry, I always hit that curve. It's an infinite game. You play until you die, and the only true entrepreneur is like, to me, like, this is just my opinion, you want to play the game forever. Like, of course, someday you're gonna slow down a little bit, probably.
Yeah, it's good to have goals and, you know, financial number goals, but at the end of the day, you're gonna even hit that goal, and it's just a number on a screen. What what's next?
Exactly.
You're done.
You're not an entrepreneur necessarily. Of course, you want to make money and make an impact, but it's just about playing the game, you know. And that's what me and you, like, I love to be challenged. I don't think being a doctor, like, that was my ultimate goal, or you being a commercial pilot. Like, we would have gotten there and we would have been like, okay, like, what the hell is next? Because, like, that's something about you too, is like,
I get bored easily.
Exactly. That's why you were, like, unemployable. You literally, like, learn, you're like, okay, I'm done. Like, next thing.
Yeah, like any job I've worked, once I do it and I figure it out, I'm like, okay, like, I'm ready to move up the ladder or do something else. And when you just, like, try to keep, like, an animal in a cage almost, you know, it's like equivalent for me is like, I've always had that fire inside of me where, like, I'm hungry for more. Like, if I can't progress here, this is a waste of my fucking time.
I agree. And I think too, something about you, Tanner, is that's why, like, you, I think, had a hard time with entrepreneurship, is before you would just step into an arena and you were always usually the best and people looked up to you right away. But in this arena, you start out at the way bottom and you stay there for a while and there's no end in sight.
Yeah.
So I think that's been hard for you. Like, me in particular, I've always kind of just been like, whatever, go with the flow. And I think you in particular, you like having, like, that, like, kind of, like, step by step. Yeah, I'll park. I just turn on. I'm gonna go park over here. We're by the entrance.
What are you saying, step by step?
Yeah, I feel like before you've always liked kind of like a step by step, like, here's what I'm doing, and you figure it out. The thing about you is you figure out those step by steps, but I think with entrepreneurship, it's kind of it's not always impossible, but it's kind of impossible in the beginning to have a step by step. Yeah. And I think that's kind of like, especially you being alone and not having all that support from other people, has kind of been hard. But I think it's what's best for you, you know?